Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first episode of season 2 of On the Verge podcast. If you're listening to it and you're joining us for the first time in season 2, thank you guys very much. You can check out all of season 1, the first 8 episodes, anywhere you get your podcast. If you're coming back and joining us again for season 2, thank you guys for coming with Tammy and I on this journey. It's been incredible. It's been amazing.
I never dreamt we'd be in season 2 in one pandemic at once. So
yeah,
I think this is a lot of fun, and I think the content that we shared in season 1 and what we'll share in season 2 is just such a great progression of what we've seen in a pandemic, but also just in entrepreneurship in general and how we've approached it and what we've been facing, but also what we've heard from others. So I think that's going to be an interesting sort of progression as well.
Yes, absolutely. And if you guys are watching this, you'll see that Tammy and I are in the same room in the same place. I actually came down to Atlanta to kind of record some episodes with her. So this has been incredible. And actually, when we first came up with the idea, we were hoping to do some of these in person together. But we had to do it virtual. But now, some restrictions have been lifted, and we're able to be in the same room and knock out a couple of episodes. Cool. So I think this is very exciting and the perfect way to launch our season 2. Yeah. And like I said, season 1, we definitely hit on a lot of different topics, whether it be business, entrepreneurship, motivational things, but also there were a lot of cultural things and things that were going on in the world that we definitely believe that conversations needed to be had and talked about. Mm-hmm. So we've gotten a lot of great feedback about those topics and all of our topics in general, and we want to thank you guys for that. If there's anything that you want to hear about us, go deeper in, let us know. Share this with your friends and family and coworkers or anybody, and we definitely love and appreciate you guys for that. So like I said, we are, episode 1, and the topic that we're going to talk about today is, and what is it, Tammy?
This is about building community wherever you are. You put me on the spot right there. Because
we had 2 topics to choose from. And we just talked about them both, but we didn't actually say, we're going to record this one. So
he put me on the spot right there, and I was like, okay, let's roll with it. This is what we're going to do. So
yes. So
we are.
Yeah. So it's, talking about building a community, and honestly, if you think about over the last 7 or so months, and depending on where you are and how restrictive you may or may not have been, community has been so important. There are some people out there who have just really been on their own, locked down, in their quiet place, and there's other people who have been, out and about and more engaged and able to be engaged, or different things like that. But we're all trying to get to that same place, and whether we're building our business, expanding our business, or just different things like that, and what it looks like. And the best ways to build community, the way that things are right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's such an interesting perspective, because so many people have had such a different experience during their quarantine, shelter in place, a global pandemic. Some folks are traveling to countries that are open to US citizens. Some folks are, going rogue and really pushing the limits on shelter in place and mask wearing. They have been doing for several months. And on the other end of the spectrum, some folks have really taken it, not that they haven't taken it seriously or more seriously, but whether it's their own restrictions that they've placed on themselves, in addition to what else is out there in society, they've chosen to stay at home. They've chosen not to engage. They've chosen not to go to restaurants, or they've chosen not to do something. And it's only, and for me, I can speak to that completely on the other end of the spectrum, where I haven't left much of a 5-mile radius. So this is the first person I'm really seeing in the flesh from another city, which is amazing.
And I'm about 700 miles away from home. So.
and so for me, that is just such a piece of magic that for someone who really believes in building communities and immersing themselves in community, it is so important. And I felt that sort of disconnect and gap. And I think it's important to understand whether you are going out there and you're ready to walk into a 20,000 person conference, or you are willing to build digital communities. It's really important to understand where you fit into that and what you're comfortable in doing, which is really important as well.
Yes. And, probably best maybe to break it down by the different types of communities that we can build. We'll go back to 2019 when everything was everything. It was easy, especially for entrepreneurs. You go to networking events at the local, pub, bar, restaurant, or whatever, from 5 to 6, 5 to 7 or whatnot, hand out some business cards. You can get onto, various groups, boards, all of these different things that was just so easy and just, fell into your lap. And now it's not as easy, or even the conference. We said it before, Tammy and I, we met 7 years ago at a conference here in Atlanta. Social shakeup. So that for 2 or 3 years was an amazing way of building community. But those, 2, 3, 5, 10,000 people conferences are not happening, at least for a while. So what are some of the best ways that people can build community, whether it be digital or in person, or whatever, what are some of the best ways that you've build community for yourself now?
Yeah, and also going back to that step that you took back a few minutes ago, is that entrepreneurship is incredibly lonely. Being a founder is incredibly lonely. Whether you're a solo founder or you have partners, it can be an incredibly lonely journey. And folks who aren't, and we've spoken about this before, and folks who aren't on that journey with you or aren't in that same position don't understand how lonely it can be.
Yes.
And unless you walk in that walk with everyone else in the same position, it's lonely. So community is incredibly important for that same notion of this is why you've got to have community. And so I think, listen, social media is fantastic, but how you leverage it, like your community where you're sending memes to each other on Instagram, I'm not so sure that that's the community you need to be part of. But finding little pockets of online groups. LinkedIn is fantastic for finding different groups that you can immerse yourself in, that there's a lot of conversation. They might have a weekly chat that they get on. Get on there, turn your video on, turn your audio on. It's incredibly easy to have your video off and hiding behind the scenes, especially on these group connects. Turn it on, be vulnerable, put your audio on, let them hear the kids crying in the background, the dogs barking, the construction out there. It's so important that you turn your video on. I know we have Zoom fatigue as well.
Yes.
But just when you are finding these communities, a LinkedIn group, for example, a Facebook group, if that might be the thing. I'm not very active on Facebook in groups and whatnot, but LinkedIn especially, it almost turns into sort of a mastermind, a weekly mastermind.
Yes.
And those are important. So I think looking at LinkedIn in the specific niche is helpful. And what else I've found lately is Clubhouse. It is quite an exclusive network, not in that you can't just join, but you have to get an invitation to join. But it's an online community, it's audio only. And that's a great way to meet other people, other founders, other entrepreneurs, to just join a group. And it's easy to sit there and listen and not participate.
Yes.
But go ahead, introduce yourself, say hello. I mean, it's way less awkward than being at a conference and shaking someone's hand and having to stand in that conversation.
Oh, for sure, absolutely. You kind of talk about Facebook groups. I'll join a lot of Facebook groups, but then I find myself after a while turning off the notifications. And I realized part of it, and when you're building community and you're joining these groups or whatever, it's also important to be honest with yourself. So I'll join these Facebook groups with the intention of maybe engaging, getting some information or whatnot. But then I realize some of them are just annoying me. So I'll turn off the notifications. I won't fully leave them or whatnot, but as you're finding the group, your niche, your place, it's important to be honest with yourself and see, is this a place where I'm finding value? When you're getting started, I remember when I got started in real estate, I went to just about every networking event there was. Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, all of these different things. And I burnt myself out for the first year doing that because, all of these title companies or lenders or whatnot are setting up, these happy hours and everything. Then after a while, you kind of realize, okay, this is a networking event full of about 75% other agents. I'm not getting business from them. The people hosting it is only looking for business from me, but I just started, so I don't have a whole lot of clients.
It's draining.
Yes, and then you realize, okay, these groups or these type of events are not adding value. So I removed myself from doing those things. But also in the Facebook groups, as you're finding those groups, make sure that the conversations that are happening in there, they're adding value. If your purpose is looking for referrals or whatnot, make sure there's quality leads and referrals. If it's a group where you're looking for some kind of guidance, direction, or mentoring type of thing, make sure it's the topics and the posts that are in there that you're getting some kind of valuable information in those groups. And if you're not, then just leave the group.
Yeah.
And I'm the type of person where I much rather remove myself from a situation or a group or whatnot, take that 75% of energy and disperse redirect it into other things. I tell people I'm 34 years old. I don't have time to waste for certain
I love
things.
that. But you know what? That's so important that you say that, because be real with yourself, be true to yourself if you're joining these groups.
Yes.
But before that, set expectations, set your goals for these networking and joining community. Are you joining just to join? Are you joining?
Yes.
What do you want out of this? And it's not a laundry list. It's maybe 3 to 5 things. Keep it really simple. What do you want out of this group? What do you want to accomplish from these people you're meeting? And what do you want to take away with it? And time block it as well.
Yes.
Say, I'm going to join 3 groups. I'm going to join one group on LinkedIn, on Facebook, or wherever it may be, and time box that and say, I'm going to join this for 3 months. And if I don't see this, this, and this, but you have to contribute yourself.
Yes.
Don't just expect someone to come and build your community for you.
Absolutely.
You have to invest in it. You have to invest in those other people as well. And at the end of those 3 months, evaluate what that looks like.
Yes.
And I think that's important. Go in with a goal, understand what you want to get out of it, and pour yourself into it. Actually do the work. It doesn't just happen. Networking doesn't just come to you. You have to create these communities and invest in it. Give other people value. Bring insights from your industry that are valuable to these folks so that you become that go-to source of authority and insert whatever it is that you're doing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then there's this other thing too that a lot of people I don't think realize that it is a part of building community. But say if your entrepreneurship and that your entrepreneurship aspect of yourself is a side hustle or whatnot, you're just kind of getting started in, or you have this idea, share it with somebody. Or share it with a few people that you trust, because a lot of times what we do as entrepreneurs is we hold things so close to our chest that we don't let anybody know what we're doing, what we're working on, because we have this whole idea. It's like, we'll wait till we're finished, or we're afraid someone's going to take our idea. But if there's some people that you trust, whether it be siblings, whether it be good friends, a significant other, or whatnot, and you let them know, okay, this is what I'm working on, this is where I'm at, maybe in my stage, this is what I'm thinking about doing, that person might be able to help you get to the finish line.
Yes.
And that's another sense of community, just building that trust with people as you're working your way through it.
Such a good point.
Yes, like I said, a lot of times we'll start working on an idea, and it takes us a year to get to the finish line, and then we're like, okay, we made it. Here's my business, here's my thought, here's my plan. But not realizing, if we would have just shared it with 1 or 2 people, we probably could have got to that finish line in 8 months.
Absolutely. That's such a good point. And I love that you said that, because community often we think about as large groups, communities of 5, 10, 50 people. But that community between one-on-one, or just your tight-knit of friends, and we had this conversation last night where you said, oh, it looks like I have hundreds of friends, but they are a very different, there's a core group. And some laugh about it and say it's the person's going to come change your tire in the middle of the night when you're stranded on a dead-end road. but it is that core group of people that you can trust, and that's
Yes.
community too. And I'm glad you brought that up.
It is, yes. I mean, I'm very fortunate. My girlfriend and I, she's just getting started with expanding her own personal brand. But over the last few weeks, we've been able to kind of share different things. I'll share little ideas with her that will, can be significant or whatnot, and she's implemented. But then as she's implementing it and doing things, it's helping me raise the bar, helping me level up or whatnot. And a lot of times it's great when you can have a significant other that you can do that with, or a good friend that you can do that with. Tammy and I, we've said this many times on the podcast, we've been on this entrepreneurial journey together almost to the week, since May 2017. And different things that we're doing, we're just leveling each other up. And I remember I called you last week about the marketing thing, and I was like, look, we have the same background in marketing, communications, and everything. And I was like, but I just want to be a student right now. And I told, Tammy an idea of what I wanted to do, landing pages and email marketing and whatnot. And just having that 10-minute conversation with her to help me process and clear my mind on what I wanted to do and lay it out. I spent 3-4 hours that evening working on things. I started embedding things on my website. I started, all of these different things, sending templates. And you just do that. So that's what you really want to make sure that you have, when you're sharing ideas with people. It's not just sharing ideas to share with people just for the sake of sharing it. You want to make sure this person can help you. Maybe you can help this person. There's some added value to it. And you have to be careful about who it is.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying to scare anybody that, someone's going to steal your idea, but just make sure that this person, and that you're not asking too much from this person. If this is not their wheelhouse, I talked to Tammy about marketing because that's her wheelhouse. I'm not going to necessarily talk to her about, hey, I'm looking to do this huge investment project and, have her look at spreadsheets of numbers. That's not her thing. And God, I hope she doesn't ask me to do that too. Because
Listen, do not take any investment advice on that.
Exactly. So just making sure, who you're asking something of is what they're, potentially able to help you with.
Yes. And one thing I read this a couple of weeks ago is that a lot of people aren't listening to understand. They're waiting their turn so that they can share their perspective on something.
Yes.
A lot of people aren't listening. They're just waiting their turn to speak.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's so interesting in that when you are sharing this, it is that they're listening, but they have your best interest. Not everyone wants to see you win. We've spoken about that before, but I hope that at that point where you are sharing these ideas for folks to level you up, is that you do have that inherent trust in them already, that that's not the case. And it is. It's I know that I can come to you and share. A couple of weeks ago I shared a project with you that was incredibly confidential.
Yes.
And I know without a shadow of a doubt that you fully respect that, but you're also championing me toward the next step, which is remarkable.
Absolutely.
And find those people. That's community. I mean, I know that I've shared things with you that I haven't shared, in some of my closest relationships. Not because I don't trust that, but because that relationship on entrepreneurship front is far more in line than anywhere else.
Absolutely. So, like I said, in this episode, we've just talked about building community, and a lot of times, especially during these times of COVID and people social distancing, keeping their, staying in their place and all of these different things, we got to do things differently. But just because we have to do things differently doesn't mean that we can't do things.
Exactly.
And I think now more than ever is so important to building community, building that right community, building that perfect space and team around you, and where you can go for resources, whether it be mentors, whether it be bouncing ideas or whatever, or a group chat or anything like that. So, just as you're starting your journey, continuing that journey, maybe ending your journey, who knows, wherever you are in your journey right now, check your community. And if you don't have a community, find it.
So important. And when you're reaching out to someone that you don't know or you don't have an existing relationship with, be explicitly clear about what you want out of that relationship or how that person can help you. When someone reaches out to me, and I'm sure you've seen this many times on LinkedIn, hey, I'd like to pick your brain, or can I talk to you about marketing?
Yes.
My immediate response is absolutely, I'd love to talk to you, but I've found these conversations to be far more productive and insightful if you map out what the 3 to 5 key objectives are that you are looking to accomplish from this conversation.
Yes.
And that's very important. Map it out, be clear with your intentions, set those intentions, and ensure that you set those expectations for each party when you have that conversation.
Absolutely. So I hope in this episode that some things were said that and some important takeaways that you can go out there and be fierce and be amazing with and find your community and build your community and everything. And if you have a current community, like I said, check it and maybe make some adjustments or whatnot. Okay. Well, that's episode 1 of On the Verge, season 2. Gosh.
It's amazing. I'm so excited about this. Thank you so much for listening in.
Yes.
So excited about this season.
Absolutely. So, but like I said, you can get this episode and all of the other episodes of On the Verge. You can get them anywhere you get your podcasts, on Apple, Spotify, anywhere. Google,
everywhere.
all of that stuff. You can check it out. You can find it on YouTube. You can check it out on my website, williejdavis.com. And if there are any topics that you guys want to hear throughout the season, please let us know in the comments wherever that you're listening to this podcast, and we will definitely try to fit that in for you guys. So I hope you guys have a great day and an amazing week, and we'll talk to you guys soon.